Good day, everyone. In this continuation of the Question Everything series, I will in future be wearing this jacket, seeing that the t-shirt I wore before was stolen on tour, maybe as a souvenir. I don't know what goes on in people's minds, but strange things did happen. So, this is a jacket that my father wore in December of 1983. When he came to see me in Kuilsriver in Cape Town, just before he was about to fly off to Geneva, Switzerland, where he attended the Committee of 300 meeting and where they were busy implementing Operation Golden File. Operation Golden File is basically a presentation about climate change where the whole world needs to be reinvented, industry needs to be reinvented, new technology had to be invented and used to change the society we live in to stop us from a climate calamity. So this narrative was heavily driven in the 70s. And at that stage, because my father had developed technology, that he hadn't at that stage physically built and tested, he was invited to the Committee of 300 and attended the meeting in early January of 1984. And I have presented evidence to this effect, the fact that he was there from his passport and letters that he received in Geneva at the time that many of you across the country have seen on my tour. Um, you also know that he was a well-known inventor, that he had represented South Africa with this invention of his, a motor, a twin rotary motor that runs on water, literally, because it had a reactor unit that could separate the hydrogen and the oxygen, and because the efficiency of this motor was 86.7%. And because of that, could actually produce the power to run a process to do the separation and then power itself under its own steam. You don't need additional batteries or a hydrogen tank in the boot of your car, which makes a huge difference. And he won the prize at the time. And you can actually see the trophy behind me. On this side, you can see that trophy that he won, which was the prize for the best invention for the betterment of mankind at the Palexpo in 1999. But this was a very different meeting. And at the time, I was still very young. When he came to see me, I was not in high school yet. And I was actually going to standard 5 or grade 7 at the time. And when he came to see me, I'd already finished standard 4 or grade 6 at Paul Boys Primary, where we drove through to Paul every single day for me to attend school at that time because we lived in Kuilsriver. But he came to see me there and told me that something very significant was going to happen, that he was attending a very special meeting where top people from all over the world, that's what he called it, top people, very rich, very influential people, will meet together to decide the course for the history of the world going forward. And 1984 was a landmark year where the committee started a very specific program, and I find it fascinating that 1984 has become such an important year for many people. I think of George Orwell using the year 1984 in his book. And I find it interesting that that was the year chosen to kick off what would happen in future, all these things that are happening now, and that my father attended at the time and knew all these plans and came and told me about it in detail in 2004 and explained it to me 20 years later in minute detail what will happen in the world, what the committee will be implementing. Now, many of you will know that have watched my Question Everything series that my father realized very soon, due to someone else's intervention, that what the committee was doing was actually removing our freedom as a humanity what they called a greater good. In other words, that we remove the freedom from all the plebs in society, the people that are not as educated, etc., not as enlightened, not as wealthy, not as knowledgeable, whatever they thought it might be. They thought they had the right to do things to keep those people ignorant, and that would be for the best of humanity. And my father was a very religious man, and he read his scriptures daily, and he decided that this is actually not okay. He was attracted to the technical side of things. He was attracted to the fact that they wanted to improve society, but when he saw the methods that they were going to use, he had agreed with some and had serious problems with others. And I'm not saying that he was a proponent for freedom of choice. He believed that people should be religious and follow God. So, in his mind, people still had to be subject to something, but not something earthly. Now, I'm not going to speak about where I agreed and disagreed with my father. That is not relevant to this discussion. What is relevant is the fact that the Committee of 300 exists as an entity, that they meet annually. I don't know what has happened over the last 3 years, whether those meetings still went ahead, and that the members change. The members of the committee change over time. You obviously have royalty and then the very rich and influential families in the world within that committee, and everyone in the council of 13 families that run the agenda of the committee are also present in the Committee of 300. In other words, they are there represented, the Rothschild family, etc. So the Oppenheimer family is represented there. And, you know, if you look at the Sassoon family, which is very well entrenched in South Africa with Sasfin and many other companies for high earned individuals. If you actually see how these elites work together in countries around the world, you will realize how they exclude other people from attaining any form of success. And my father had a huge problem with the fact that he realized after that committee meeting that the whole Boer nation, or so-called Boer nation, or Afrikaner nation, was a complete and utter subversion, and that the so-called founding fathers of Afrikaans and the whole Afrikaner ideology, that they were all people that were adherents of the Bavarian Illuminati doctrine, which eventually ended up forming the Committee of 300 that would then rule the world. All the kings and queens of the world, of various countries that are still in good standing with the committee are in the committee. They are there and they are actively present in reshaping this new world we live in. And the reset, Klaus Schwab, who is a Committee of 300 member, the reset is a committee program. It's not a Klaus Schwab program, but he can speak with authority on that. The Pope serves on the committee and many other people. So it's important for you to understand that the Committee of 300 um, is, as an entity, just an execution committee, and that they don't decide what needs to be executed. They decide on how the plans of the Council of 13 Families will be implemented around the world. And so they are implementers, and they use many other organizations to do that. And I will be doing a Zoom meeting in future where I will cover the power triangle in detail and go into a lot of detail around the organizations involved, where other people did not have the information that I have. Now, I can't give you all the detail on the Committee of 300 for obvious reasons, but what I can tell you is my experience, my father's experience, and how he could lay out this entire COVID pandemic in 2004 and tell me the details of what would happen 16 years later He knew exactly how it would play out and exactly as it has played out. And I could say at the beginning of this channel what he said would happen, and it has happened like clockwork. And so I cannot ignore the information that he received when he was there. The interesting thing is that he never spoke to me about the committee again directly until 2004 in Strand at the beach, where he gave me very specific detail that he thought was important. And one of the very important things is the fact that Project Coast is still alive. And I will end at that point. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have not watched the other videos in this Question Everything series, then please go and watch them so you can understand what this channel is about. It's not a YouTube sensationalist channel. I have asked many people to please remove themselves if they are not aligned to what we are trying to achieve in South Africa, and that is system change, governance system change, so that we are not at the behest of this committee that's controlling our every way of life. Thank you very much.